Mothkeeper's Wraps are the new exotic hunter gauntlets in Season of the Witch, which replace your grenade with 2 charges of moth grenades. You can get them from the Vex Incursion public event on Neomuna, or from the Daily Lost sector when arms are on rotation. I just did a bunch of testing with them on stream and wanted to share the details of how they work, plus all the ways I found they synergize with a wide range of aspects, fragments, mods, and weapon perks, some of which are really powerful and surprising. When thrown near a mix of enemies and allies, each charge releases 2 moths. One explosive arc moth which blinds enemies, and one void moth which provides a 50% overshield to allies. But one surprising effect I found is that the moths adapt to the situation around them. In this clip I throw a charge, but as there are no enemies around, the arc moth changes into a void moth, and both myself and this other guardian each receive an overshield. Likewise, in this clip, I throw the grenade behind a group of enemies, and as I'm far away from them with multiple enemies in between us, both the moths become arc. The moth grenade cooldowns are independent of your subclass. No matter which subclass element or grenade you have equipped in the menu, the moth cooldowns are always the same. 1 minute 13 seconds at 30 discipline, and 36 seconds at 100 discipline. Now for the cool synergies. Diris, the Season Pass exotic grenade launcher, already releases an arc blinding moth on final blows, but while wearing Mothkeeper's Wraps, those final blows also release an additional void overshield moth without having to expend your grenade ability. The Strand aspect, Widow's Silk, provides an additional grenade charge, and yes, this means you can have 3 moth charges rather than just 2. But my favourite synergy that I think's really strong is with Golden Tricorn. The way this perk works is you get 1 final blow to gain a 15% damage buff, then you follow that up with a powered melee or grenade final blow which matches the weapon's element to gain Tricorn times 2 for a 50% buff. And the moth charges do indeed proc Tricorn times 2 when your subclass element matches the weapon. But weirdly, this shouldn't work, because despite your grenade icon in the bottom left changing colour to match your subclass, the moths don't actually gain the elemental damage property of your subclass. They still just deal arc damage. I'll get into how I know this later in the video, as other tests I did confirmed this, but what I suspect is happening is the game never checks the element of the grenade. It just assumes that as your equipped subclass matches the weapon with Golden Tricorn on it, that any powered melee or grenade is suitable. And this is unique because other effects such as Forerunner's rock grenade function or Bombardier's don't proc Golden Tricorn. And the reason this is stronger than just using your normal grenade to proc Tricorn times 2 is that with 2 or even 3 charges on Strand, you can maintain that huge 50% damage buff so much more consistently and easily. As you might expect, Adrenaline Junkie also works to proc times 5 immediately on a moth charge final blow. Firepower works to generate orbs on grenade final blows, and both Bolstering Detonation and Momentum Transfer work to generate class ability and melee energy on grenade damage. The blind effect the Arc Moths deal is the same as other sources of Arc Blind, so Spark of Brilliance works here to deal a blinding explosion from precision final blows against blinded targets, and you can proc Trinity Ghoul's Lightning Rod Catalyst effect from Arc Moth final blows as well. Echo of Instability also works with the moth charges because the description does not specify an element for the grenade final blow, so you can still proc volatile rounds on void weapons from the moths with this fragment, despite them not technically being void grenades. And for effects I tested that unfortunately didn't work, Paracausal Affinity on darkness aligned weapons does not proc from moth final blows, even when running a Stasis or Strand subclass. It seems that contrary to what happens with Golden Tricorn, Paracausal Affinity does actually check for the element of the damage source, and as the moths deal arc damage, it will only work with Paracausal Affinity on light aligned weapons. Spark of Shock is interesting because despite the moths being a grenade ability and dealing arc damage, they do not trigger a jolt effect, so technically don't count as an arc grenade for that purpose. Similarly, Ember of Resolve to cure on solar grenade final blows, Echo of Undermining to weaken from void grenade damage, and Echo of Expulsion to cause explosions from void ability final blows, all do not trigger from the moths. So it's safe to assume the moth charges never adopt the damage type of your subclass. And one final note is that you can use Forerunner's rock function here as normal if you want the option to use traditional grenades alongside the moths. It temporarily overrides the moths like it would any other grenade, just as you'd expect. Unfortunately, the rock grenade doesn't gain the ability to spawn moths, which I was hoping for, but I guess we can't have everything. Thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, please consider leaving a like or even subscribing. And if you think I've missed anything, let me know in the comments and I'll test it out. I also stream over at twitch.tv/GlacierRays if you want to follow me there as well.